Hey guys, what is up? The Gaming Gadget here, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be reviewing the 4-way crossover that recently happened. First off though, I'm sorry that this video is late. I've been pretty busy lately with homework and tests to study for, my computer being down and all. We are finally here and ready to go. So basically the way this video is going to work is we are going to divide it up into 4 sections. The Supergirl section, the Flash section, the DC Legends section, and the Arrow section. Basically in these sections I'm just going to be reviewing 1 or 2 things that happened in the crossover. And then after that, I'm going to be reviewing the promo for the next episode of the show based off it. So basically, I have links to each of the sections right here in this video that will fast forward the video to this specific point where I start talking about each individual show. So for example, if you don't want to get spoiled on what happens in Supergirl, then you can just click onto one of the other shows and you won't have to deal with worrying about being spoiled with Supergirl stuff. So anyways, the links are right here if you guys want to check them out. But let's get into it. First off, we're going to be reviewing the Supergirl stuff that happened in the crossover. So probably one of the biggest things that happened dealing with Supergirl Easter eggs and stuff was that Alex decided to get back together with Maggie. However, as we know, there's only 2 weddings that are going to happen this season with all of the superhero shows combined. But as we've seen from the promo of Arrow, we already have the wedding going on for Oliver and Felicity. And with the Flash, of course, we've already had a wedding for Barry and Iris. So that takes up our 2 weddings, which means if Alex and Maggie do get back together, it's either not going to work out or they're not going to get married this specific season. However, since they were so close at getting married in the beginning of this season, I'm guessing that they probably want to pick up right where they left off, or just take a couple steps back and work up to it. I don't think it'd be about 20 episodes back, or in other words, about 20 weeks back. And even if so, that would land us at about the season finale when Alex proposed to Maggie, which of course would put them on the track to getting married soon anyways. And since we know there's not going to be any weddings this season, I'm pretty sure the relationship just isn't going to work out again. And it's not going to last or anything, it's just going to probably deteriorate pretty quickly and leave Alex heartbroken again. Now in the promo for next episode, the biggest thing that we saw was probably Rain or Sam with Ruby. Now I don't think that they're going to be killing off Ruby yet. I think they're planning on keeping her alive for a while, if not for the rest of the show. So what if Rain isn't exactly Rain right now? What if she's having an inner struggle between Rain and Sam? The good versus the bad. And basically the plot of this season, instead of trying to kill Rain or get rid of her, is to try to expel the Rain set of mind from the Sam set of mind. They try to isolate Sam to bring out the good and kick out the bad. So I think in that scene when she's there with Ruby, and Ruby's like, "Hey mom, you're back," I think that right then it's actually Sam and she's come there to warn Ruby that she needs to get as far away from her as possible. But sooner or later, Rain is going to take back the body, and she's going to become the world killer once more. So possibly Alex will adopt Ruby, as mentioned as one of my fans before, and maybe Ruby would just run away into hiding, maybe go live with Patricia for a while. I don't know guys, but that's my prediction for now. Moving on to the Flash. As we know, probably one of the biggest things that happened in this whole crossover together was Barry and Iris getting married. Now we know in the episode of the Flash right before the crossover that the Thinker is letting them get married because, quote, "What is love without knowledge?" unquote. Could this mean that he's trying to use Barry's love against him once more, like in season 3 of Savitar? Could he be trying to use their marriage against them, trying to use Barry's love for Iris against them, into possibly bribing him into doing something later on? Now, as we know in the first episode of season 4 this season, Barry was saying some pretty random stuff, some about the past, some about the future. One of the things that he said that we know is from the future though is, quote, "Your Honor, I'm not guilty. I didn't kill anyone," unquote. Now could this possibly be referencing the trial of the Flash? Now this was brought to my attention by one of my fans, the Golden Fighter. You can see his comment on screen right now. Anyways though, he goes on to explain that possibly the Thinker could stage his death against Barry, trying to make it look like Barry had killed him, and then all of a sudden Joe walks in, sees the vote dead, and thinks that Barry did it because we saw Barry's anchor to the vote already in this last episode. So Joe in his right mind could guess that Barry had committed murder and killed the vote out of anger, and therefore have to send him to prison in Iron Heights to be judged and eventually face a punishment. Obviously he's gonna plead innocent, that he didn't kill DeVoe, and from the quote he says that he didn't kill anyone, and we know that Barry's a pretty trustworthy person. So it makes even more sense now that DeVoe would be staging his death if Barry's saying that he's innocent when it looks like he's guilty. And then as we saw in the promo as well, we see that the Bow has kidnapped Barry, and Joe is walking into the Bow's house and having a conversation with him, and he may even possibly come back later and see the Bow dead with Barry right next to him. Now in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, guys, we had Professor Stein die, of course, but I think that something that's even more significant than that is that we got Captain Cold back for a couple more episodes, and we may even have the Ray coming in the future for a couple episodes as well. Now, what the show's been trying to do with Mick lately is they've been trying to make him a little bit softer, a little bit more caring, and they showed that at first in the episode of Welcome to the Jungle with Gorilla Grodd, and Mick meeting his father and realizing that he wasn't such a bad person after all, and that all those mistakes that Mick has made, those were all him. And then we have Captain Cold from Earth X influencing Mick to cry at Stein's funeral, and he even sheds a tear or so. So what if Captain Cold is here for a couple of episodes just to make Mick a little bit softer, just to make him a little bit more caring, just to make him fit a little bit more with the Legends, just a little bit more, trying to give him a little bit of light in his life. Now, since Captain Cold, Sarah had mentioned, the Ray might even come for a couple episodes, and he may even stick around for a little bit. Now, since Professor Stein died, Jack is now pretty much powerless, doesn't really have any powers, unless he decides to take that serum, which will allow him to stick to walls, which is a pretty lame superpower. I mean, what would you really use that for? I don't think that Jack's gonna take that serum. But what if they take some of this meta DNA from the Ray and have Gideon replicate it into a serum that Jack can take and have the same powers to try to replace Firestorm and make up for it? Because when you think about it, the Ray's powers and Firestorm's powers are pretty similar, just instead of fire, we have light rays shooting out. Lasers, in other words. Now, in the promo for next episode, we saw Professor Stein once more. Now, I think that this may be a Professor Stein from another Earth, or it may be Professor Stein's great-great-grandfather, as we saw before in the episode of all this Malice stuff. But just because he's dead doesn't mean he's gone for good. They can always time travel, meet him again, see him from other Earths, do all of this timey-wimey stuff to meet up with him once more. Now, my guess is this is just the Martin Stein that was in the Malice episode that's actually Professor Stein's great-great-grandfather. And it's kind of a setup to try to lure the Legends into going over there, trying to help him out. And maybe he can steal some of the Legends' secrets, take it back to Malice, and then report back. Now, obviously, Malice would know that Professor Stein died because he's lived throughout all time, as we've heard directly from him possessing someone else. So if he truly has lived throughout all time, he might even possibly know that Martin had died, and therefore be able to send in his great-great-grandfather, which is on his side, as bait to trick the Legends into giving him some of their secrets. Now, for our last section, we have our Arrow stuff. Main thing that happened in the crossover dealing with them is with Oliver and Felicity getting married. Now, since they're married and they're gonna be together a lot, and since Oliver's still the Green Arrow for the time being until John gets back on his feet, it's gonna be a little bit harder to cover up now, because Felicity's gonna get a text, Oliver's gonna get a text at the same time, and they're both gonna leave. Instead of Felicity being like, oh, we have to go, and then just be like, oh, just kidding, it's just me, she can't do that anymore, because now Oliver has to come too. So somehow this might ring a bell in William's head, and might even point out a little bit that Oliver is still the Green Arrow, that he's lied to William, and this could hurt William's trust big time. But with Thea being the aunt now that she's awake, and Felicity being married and there for William now, they may be able to convince him that it's not a bad thing after all, that Oliver's a Green Arrow. And if something bad happens to William, as I predicted before, like maybe getting kidnapped or something, he might even ask Oliver to be the Arrow again, and therefore his trust won't feel as broken anymore. But before that happens, he might figure out that Oliver has been lying to him, because of him and Felicity needing to leave everywhere at the same time, making up random excuses as to why, instead of doing it old style where Felicity would just leave and tell Oliver that he didn't actually need to come because he wasn't the Green Arrow anymore. I know that little bit was a little bit confusing, so feel free to ask me comments down below, and maybe I can try to explain it a little bit better in the comments there, but that was the best way that I could explain it here in this video with the time that we have. Finally though, in the promo for Arrow, we had news that there is someone from Team Arrow that was willing to testify that Oliver was the Arrow, and therefore they would be betraying Team Arrow if they do so. So who could this person be? Well, personally, I don't think that it's someone from Team Arrow, but it's definitely someone who knows Oliver's secret. The good news is that we can narrow down the betrayer a lot because of there only being so many people not on Team Arrow that know Oliver's secret. We know that there's Thea, there's Deathstroke, there's Eleven Sharp, who has the same powers as the Black Canary. The vigilante that was Dinah's old boyfriend might possibly even know. And finally we have that one doctor who knows the secret as well, because she tried to save Laurel when she passed away, and she's been working with the team ever since. So we have 5 candidates. Obviously Thea is not going to tell the secret, and I don't think Deathstroke is either, because he's become really good friends with Oliver lately. He gave up his son so he could be Oliver's friend. I don't think he's going to be betraying Oliver's trust anytime soon. But really, that just leaves us with Eleven Sharp, the doctor, and the vigilante. Now really guys, I'm not all too sure that the vigilante even knows that Oliver is a Green Arrow. I just couldn't recall if he ever took off his mask when he was out there in battle with him, and I'm pretty sure that he didn't. I just mentioned him as a possibility just because I don't know. So that leaves us with 2 more possibilities. Evelyn Sharp, or the Doctor being the betrayer. A person willing to testify that Oliver is the Arrow and lock him away in prison forever. Now my guess is just that it's Evelyn Sharp, just because she's on a bad foot with Oliver right now, as she teamed up against him with Prometheus last season, and he ended up dying, and so now she's all alone, and she's still mad at Oliver, and she knows that he's the Green Arrow because she worked with him, as she was one of the recruits at the beginning of season 5, and then later on ended up betraying him. But she knows who he is. She knows that if she is willing to testify, he can be locked up in prison forever. So I'm guessing that it's Eleven Sharp. As we know, and as I mentioned, she used the little voice thing that Laurel had to basically have Black Canary powers, as far as the Sonic Scream goes. Anyways though guys, that's gonna do it for this crossover video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe tell me some of your theories down below. Anyways though guys, that's gonna do it for today's video, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and of course, Gadget on.